Okay, I've got a question for you. Do you typically plan to get towards pleasure or do you plan to get away from pain? Either one of those will work, and it really depends on the situation. So let's review now. We are now in chapter 6 of the E-Myth, written by Michael Gerber, co-written with Ken Goodrich. And so this chapter was written by Ken Goodrich, and my goodness, I really enjoy the things that he shared. In this one, I actually have two major observations that I'll share afterwards. As like I said, I'm learning as we go through this as well. And one of the things I wanted to read in here was actually what exactly he wrote, because it's such an interesting part. Now, if you remember from the previous chapters, at this time when Ken Goodrich is writing this, he's writing about a time that he was going through when he first started and things got seized by the IRS and he had to pay massive fines and a lot of employees walked out as he tried to take over his dad's business. It wasn't a good start. And so this is kind of another part of, let's just describe the pain he was going through and hear what he said for himself. So he was just trying to meet with a vendor, and the vendor was tired of working with him daily as he would bring cash to buy these supplies for his HVAC company. Goodness gracious. So he said, infuriated and embarrassed, I retreated to my truck with my hands clenched. Now, here's something else. He had a nice shiny BMW. He had to turn it in and trade it in for a Ford F-150 with a ladder rack. So he has gone through a lot of changes at this point. Because I went back to my truck with my hands clenched. I pick up the E-Myth, revisited along with the yellow notepad he had in his truck. Right there in the parking lot, I wrote these words on the pad. My strategic objective is to sell this business within 5 years for $1 million. It's a pretty heavy goal. Now, to fulfill my goal, as Michael said, I knew I needed to create a clear plan. I continued writing. I need to have systems that my employees can follow to deliver goods and services to my customers. I need to get good people and train them in those systems. I need to be the premium provider in the marketplace so I can afford good marketing to attract new customers every day. I need to do my very best work so customers will come back and refer me. I need to have a profitable business that operates without me so someone will want to buy it. And from there, I created a detailed roadmap to reach my goal. Now, this is an interesting side note. Within 5 years of writing this plan, like he talked about, a 5-year plan, I accumulated 3 companies and sold them for more than 6 times my original goal. Plans are powerful. They turn your dreams into a roadmap for success. Whoa. Now, if you haven't heard, also Ken right now runs a company doing over $100 million a year. So he's learned quite a bit, and I do enjoy learning from him. Okay, so he talked about here so in that part, Ken wrote a plan really to get out of pain. Okay, and now the pan and we have a lot of P's here. To P all over myself. His plan was to get out of pain, but did move him towards pleasure as well. We talked about this. If you're the only one who knows your plan, then you're just dreaming. If you're the only one who knows your plan, if no one else knows it, it's in your head, it's just a dream. So what is a plan then? He put on here is a plan is a documented roadmap to share with your team. Isn't that interesting? To share with your team. I would also include family as well. Providing a clear, transparent path and gives you a way to achieve your dreams while helping others in your business to succeed. Now, isn't that interesting that he included to help others succeed as well? Why? Well, I was just having this talk with my bride over breakfast. Why would our team want to stay if our dreams don't include them? As an employee, didn't you want to work somewhere where you could see a future? Or see what's going on? And I included a quote of the book here from Zig Ziglar. If you help enough people get what they want, how do he say it? You will eventually get what you want. I love Zig Ziglar. If you get a chance to read some of his material, very helpful person. He did a lot of great things. Anyway, moving on. So start with the end in mind. that's a simple one. What I want it to look like. I heard someone say, what's it feel like? What's it taste like? What is it? Taste food. Anyway, what does this dream look like for you? As he said in this chapter, after being embarrassed by a vendor, I want to make this company worth $1 million. What would that mean? Because in his mind, his vendor was choosing the customers who are well-paying customers, not at his level. So will that influence some things you want? Did you want your business to look way bigger than the company you're working at right now or you had in the past? I know I like when things happen that I get to show off to my previous employer. Yeah, I wasn't a dummy, right? So start with end in mind. And if you've ever heard the saying, if you've ever say to yourself, one day I'm going to start my own business and it's going to be way better than this place. So the question, I guess, is, okay, what's that look like? So Ken, as a professional, wanted a profitable business, okay, to run without his day-to-day involvement. It will be scalable, and I made this up, to be sellable. That's pretty interesting. So it can be built to be sold. It wants to be thriving morally and ethically. Ooh, you wouldn't want to build a company that's ran like a thief or a gambler, right? Provide opportunities for everyone who joined my team and worked hard. Providing opportunities for the team who works hard. Why would people want to stay alongside you through all this growth and transition? Things could be exciting, but what's in it for them? He talks about now he had a plan backwards. Okay, so now I know where I want to go. Now I kind of work backwards to get back to from where I am now to kind of make that plan. So he's talking about if you have a 5-year plan, after you need to figure out every year what you need to be doing in those plans. So the first thing you do, though, of course, is kind of get the trajectory. Where am I heading to? What does that vision look like? What are some of these things? How I treat my customers, how I treat my employees, those kind of things. Once we have that plan, now we work backwards in that. So he said, by doing this, I would run the business by day and document the systems at night. Now, that just talks like maybe when he went home, he was documenting things, or maybe he stayed late. Sometimes it does take that. Hopefully in the future, that's not the plan. Obviously, he had a plan to not be doing that if his plan was for his business to be run without his day-to-day involvement. So working by the day, but why document the systems at night? Well, I found out sometimes I'm trying to document systems during the day. I'm not able to help advise my team on what they should be doing or working on, or answering other kind of questions. Goodness, just by saying that, it does sound like maybe my team may not have all their full expectations of how to operate or make the decisions without me. So have I given them all the keys to do that? That's another observation. I better make a note of that. So I did put a note down here. Sometimes if you want to get something you've never had, you will need to do something maybe you've never done before. And that could be the working the longer hours to get ahead. Now, like I mentioned a couple of times, I do like vacations with my family, but I don't get to do that every day. Actually, sometimes I have to really plan to be home for dinner. We're still in that kind of building phase. There's some people who are able to apply these things much faster and build faster. What does fast look like for some people? There are certainly some things we could be considered to be a shortcut. Sometimes shortcuts lead you down the wrong path, the one you didn't figure on going down. So kind of get back on here. This was interesting. When he built this plan, he then posted it, okay? So he put it in his office so he could see, and also for his team to see. He says, remind yourself and your team why you're doing this. This is a big part. This is a quote from the book here. Ken says, the system we are building today will positively impact the entire industry in the future. What we are building today is going to be used across the country and improve the lives of thousands of contractors. And I like this part. We are now working for a higher purpose than our paychecks. Ooh, is that not a good rally cry right there? One of my observations. No, I'm not going to go to my observations yet. Let's save that for the end, though. So he talked about through this process, as you're sharing this, dedicated people will stay. Why do they want to stay was one of the questions I mentioned earlier, right? Well, because they believe you can provide an opportunity for them and their family. Isn't that interesting? Sometimes we think in sales, the only person that we need to, I wouldn't say the word convince, but more to show the benefit of our product or services over somebody else would be the customer, right? But what if we take that same approach with our employees or our team to show them that the value of staying with us is far superior to the value of going somewhere else? In this time of wages seem to be going up and down, excuse me, mainly just up in every other industry. And the grass always looks greener on the other side. And one thing Alex Ramosi said was, the grass is greener because it's covered in poop. Isn't that interesting? How do we show our team that there is more value here than there is value going somewhere else? Certainly your dedicated employees will stay with you through the journey if we show them those things. The plan should include how to train new employees to consistently provide the premium service and quality that your business will be known for. That's part of your plan. That's a good point. Some of the simple things we're just encountering is, I love these uniform shirts. I've had them for years. Well, I've not necessarily had this exact shirt for years, but I have a sun problem. I know, right? I get in the sun, I start sneezing, and I sunburn bad, and I'm going to go into all the details. Their shirt has UV protectant in it, and it looks really cool. It reminds me of something that I pinpointed. It reminds me of my dad. Growing up on the farm, he would wear a light blue shirt like this when doing welding. As you welders may be out there to know, protection so you won't catch fire or get burned. And so this color reminds me of that, and I love it. But when the guys are truck washing, it shows grease a lot. So I have to look at, what does my customer see when we come to their home or their place of work? What is that? Are they seeing something in us that's going to provide them for great quality service? I don't like guys just showing up in rags or dirty clothes. It doesn't give us a good image to make sure we're providing that quality service, to be the premium provider. The plan should also document clearly, define how we price. That's a big one. How we price our services or goods. How we fill out our invoices, and also how we're going to remind them sometimes if you're commercial. How we answer the phones. That's a big one. Hello? Or is it, it's a great day here, or whatever you think. How they answer the phone. And also how we do the work, or do the thing, as Michael would say, with every other aspect of the business. So McKinn said he had a goal to duplicate yourself without having to manage every detail on your own. Wouldn't that be nice? Sometimes I think, what is my day consumed of? Seems like answering everybody else's questions I should be able to do. So the question is, have I micromanaged so much they're afraid to make a decision? Or have I maybe not given the full expectations of the position and trained them on how to do those things, or so they can know how to operate within those expectations? You see sometimes how rating can help solve your problems, like, this thing just comes to your mind, which comes to me. I tell you what, I must be a big dummy because I love learning. I guess I've learned that I am not the smartest. Now, get back on track here. So after we have this basics part down, now you talk about if it's a 5-year plan. I break it down into 5 one-year plans to see, okay, someone said, Josh Latimer, how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So break this down into manageable sections so we can kind of project growth. Or if you're going on vacation, what is your map to get there? This is the map we're talking about. He said, include in this, your plans is broken down, what your projected revenue is going to look like, what your gross profit is and net profit. Put it in there, maybe new products or services you're going to be introducing, keeping it to your core at first, and maybe some of the things that could bring benefit to your other current customers. I'm not saying you should do that or not, but something to consider in your plan. Also, one big you mentioned in there is your lead generation. What is my system for consistently generating leads? Okay, what does that duplicatable system look like? And then also my lead conversion. What does that system look like when your service people engage the customers? What does that look like? Do they feel pressure like a Kirby vacuum cleaner salesperson, or do they feel so way off in the corner, like, if you want me, hire me or not? You got to probably have somewhere in between there, but you get to design that. That's kind of a neat part. And then client fulfillment. What does it look like when your customers are so happy, or from the book, raging fans, where they just love your service and they want to share it with other people, or be someone like, hey, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, everyone wears a Chiefs jersey. What does it look like when your client wants to wear your jersey and share all the great things you've done as well? Now, once we have that, I know it's kind of a mouthful here, and you can always feel free to go back and read the book for yourself. As they said in Reading Rainbow, don't take my word for it. But now we review these things daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. It's really interesting. If you look at some of your financial records, maybe by the month, by the quarter, or by the year, you're going, man, how did I make those mistakes? I wish I could have changed it earlier, right? Like for us in Kansas, if I went ahead to say the beaches in Florida, well, that's south Never eat southeast, right? But if I'm headed towards Seattle, northwest, I would think I would like to know that before I got there, right? So how quickly to review these things so you can make those kind of corrections. Or if you're flying, you would really want your pilot to be able to know those things ahead of time to not make a bunch of circles on the sky, right? So the question is, am I on track? But how do I know if I'm on track or not? What would it look like if I have happy customers? What does it look like? Well, I suppose they give us reviews. So another question is, how can I make sure they give us reviews? Do I have a system to get reviews? There's a lot of automations out there. Or is it a phone call your admin person does? Or do you in person talk to them? All these kind of things is, how do I know if I'm on track? Like a pilot may have an altimeter to make sure they're going up or down, or if they're going the right direction. You got to have the same thing with your company. So I like to say is, what does it look like? So some of this part here, we've talked about before, Jake, we have KPIs, which stands for Key Performance Indicators, or some people call them business metrics or vital metrics. But what are some of these target goals? Like some of these key performance indicators is simple. What are the key performances need to be doing? Do I know if they're happy or not? If the goal is if I think my customers are happy by giving me a five-star review, then I need to measure how many reviews I'm getting that are 5 stars. That's a very simple metric here. He talks about other ones that could be, but not all of them. But how many leads am I getting? Another great question I wrote down in my notes the other day when somebody asked me is, how many leads do I need? Oh, well, I have to kind of think of what I want, work backwards to figure out my close rate, from my booking rate. Then I kind of figure out for all these different things when sales, I go, oh, that's how many leads I need. So I can make a plan to make sure that I'm on track for how many leads that I'm getting. Also, my KPI could be a close rate of those leads. If I'm getting, say, this is a hypothetical number, 100 leads a month, great, we're getting those. And my goal is I should close at least 60% of those. You don't want to close 100% of them. It means if you're too cheap. If you're closing only 5 or 10%, either your product isn't very good or you're overpriced. So there's a kind of value in there. You have to decide for your own company. But if you're saying I need to close 60% to hit my goals, and your sales team is only closing 20 to 15%, that's going to really throw you off at the end of the month. And you want to know those things sooner rather than later. You also know, like, a KPI is my customer happiness, but I also add in there, what is my employee happiness? Ooh, do I wait for them just to not show up to understand that they weren't happy? Do I wait for them to kind of be short with my customers because they're not happy, or cut someone off on the road and you get a call? When, I want to know that. What is my customer or my employee happiness? Also, what is my average ticket? My cost per lead? What's my revenue? My net income? All those things, you make this thing, you just write down what does it look like, and how do I want to track those. The one thing I talked about is in a scorecard. It came from the book Traction, and Ken also mentioned this. He wrote a scorecard like a baseball card. What are my stats? And then from that, he can review those. And so I put down here, decide how and when you want to review those KPIs, and also in problems in your systems. Now, I did mention more in Chapter 8, which is coming up. We're going to kind of cover some of those. We review our KPIs on a scorecard from the book Traction, which I will be covering here soon as well. And then on that, how we review we decided to have a weekly managers meeting. So I have my admin team on there, our sales team, our production manager, myself, and some of our marketing team, which happens to be my wife, who loves doing some of this stuff right there. We get together, we kind of cover all the scorecards, and it's called it could be a manager's meeting, but we call it a level 10 meeting, which also comes from Traction. And so we kind of review these things. Pretty simple. If all my numbers are on track, they're in black. Easy, right? And if they're not, they're in red. Quickly, easy to identify, so then we can discuss the plan to make sure we're going to correct those and who's going to own it, and then we kind of review at the very end of, okay, these are the steps we're going to take this week. So I'm looking at my KPIs, are they on track or off track? I'm also going to review steps towards a bigger goal. Sometimes, like if we're adding a new service, like for seamless gutters, there's some small steps into that, like do we have our truck built? That's also a pretty big goal. And all the small things, our ladder racks, do we have where we're going to store things, the labels, right tools? All those are smaller goals. We kind of review the status of that during our meetings. I'm going to cover more on that. I just want to kind of share with you a little bit of how you review your KPIs on there. So have a plan To review those, we're almost done here. This is a really fun one here. Have a plan of how and when you reward the team for meeting your goals. Okay, now I mentioned I was going to share the two big takeaways I got on here. The first one is I got a really cool plan for what we're going to be doing in the future, and most of it's in my head, which means it's just a dream. It's not written out. Now, I'm embarrassed by that because we've shared plans in the past. We had great growth. For years, we have way more growth than just incremental, as he talks about. What are those growth spurts? I'm not saying I'm only going to grow by 10% a year. Some companies love to do that, but I have bigger plans than that. But if I don't share them with my team, how can they rally around it? And then attached to that one, if they don't know what that does for them, what keeps them excited when I come back? I try to provide a great culture and environment, and we track the small celebrations like high five moments. That's what we track for our team happiness. So we're always trying to find ways to celebrate them from their successes, big and small. It's actually in our core values. But if the plan doesn't show what's going to lead for them in the future, that's a big takeaway on that one. And then lastly, we do try to plan regular events for our team. Quarterly, it seems like it's coming down to, and sometimes it was once a year, which is very sad. So what are we doing to celebrate when our team is hitting their goals? I mean, just like we do with our kids, we want to celebrate when they're doing their chores, right? And as a child ourselves, we loved it when, grandma and grandpa took us out for ice cream for doing something really good or for a concert or something. And then certainly as a spouse, we love it when we're rewarded for being a good spouse. What about our team? So my big observation on that one was, I don't necessarily have a posted plan of when this happens. That's called a flow chart, right? And that's what I got to work on for my team to understand that when we're hitting our team goals, what does that mean for them other than just means a shorter meeting or we're on track. See, I love these books, and I'm glad you're along here with me to check this out. And so come with us next week as we start talking about back to Michael Gerber's talk, and it's going to be on the subject of management, or also called great leadership as well. So thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to take his observations, and let's get them applied to our business, because our business means something big to you, and it means something big to me. Talk to you soon.